Hello and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Well, India and the UK have announced deals worth £9 billion. Well, this as PM Modi began his 3-day visit to the country. Well, that is, of course, our top story of the day. But let us begin with the headlines. India and UK forged partnerships worth over £9 billion, signed civil nuclear deal as PM Narendra Modi begins maiden visit. Prime Minister answers questions on rising intolerance in India, says government committed to protect every citizen's freedom. Vishwa Hindu Parishad calls for statewide Bandh in Karnataka over escalating tension following anniversary celebrations on Tipu Sultan. 2 people, including a VHP activist, killed in clashes in Madikeri. And at least 43 people killed and 240 injured after 2 suicide bombers strike Lebanese capital of Beirut. IS claims responsibility for the attack. Well, India and the UK have inked a civil nuclear deal. The deal was signed during Prime Minister Modi's ongoing 3-day visit to the UK. Now, Modi held talks with his UK counterpart David Cameron on strengthening ties in various fields, including trade, defence and combating terror. Cameron pledged to help India in PM's pet Make in India project. He also backed India's bid for the UN Security Council.
India and the UK have announced deals worth £9 billion as they signed a civil nuclear pact and decided to collaborate in the field of defence and cybersecurity, besides launching a railway rupee bond.
लंदन के फाइनेंशियल मार्केट का फंड रेज करने के लिए हम और अधिक प्रयोग करने वाले हैं। मेरे लिए प्रसन्नता का विषय है कि हम भारतीय रेल के लिए लंदन में रेलवे रूपी बॉन्ड जारी करने जा रहे हैं।
We want to become your #1 partner for securing the finance needed for this ambitious plan, making London the world centre for offshore rupee trading. We're getting that started with plans already in place today to issue over £1 billion of bonds right here in London, including the first ever government-backed rupee-denominated bond to be issued internationally.
Earlier, the leaders held talks to strengthen economic, trade and defence ties apart from sectoral cooperations. The UK is the 3rd largest inward investor in India after Mauritius and Singapore.
हम अपने पॉलिटिकल डायलॉग को और घनिष्ठ बनाएंगे और नियमित रूप से बायलैटरल समिट करेंगे। सिविल न्यूक्लियर एग्रीमेंट पर हस्ताक्षर किए हैं। ये हमारे आपसी विश्वास का प्रतीक है और हमने क्लाइमेट चेंज का सामना करने के लिए हमारे दृढ़ संकल्प का परिचय भी दिया है।
Want British companies with their world-class consulting, project management and engineering skills to help you plan, design and build these new cities. So I'm delighted we've agreed a new 5-year partnership to develop 3 cities, Amaravati, Indore and Pune.
India is keen to buy 20 more BAE Systems Hawk trainer aircraft for its armed forces to be made in Bengaluru. During the press conference, UK also backed India's bid at the UNSC.
Firmly supports permanent membership for India on the United Nations Security Council.
On his arrival in London for the 3-day visit, Modi was accorded a Guard of Honour by the 48-member F Company Scots Guard, accompanied by the regimental band of the Irish Guards. Cameron received Modi at 10 Downing Street before the 2 leaders were engaged in a nearly 90-minute dialogue. Modi's talks with Cameron carried on at the British Prime Minister's country residence at Chequers in Buckinghamshire, where he was hosted overnight. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the UK comes at a time when back home the debate on intolerance has reached a fever pitch. Now, that issue was echoed in London as well during his first interaction with the media. Now, asked by a BBC reporter on why India was becoming increasingly intolerant, Modi said that India is the land of Buddha and Gandhi, and its culture does not accept anything that is against the basic social values. PM Modi also said that India is committed to protecting every citizen's freedom and law will deal severely with those who are intolerant.
हमारे लिए हर घटना गंभीर होती है। हम इसको किसी भी हालत में टॉलरेट नहीं करते हैं। कानून कठोरता से कार्रवाई करता है और करेगा, और भारत एक वाइब्रेंट डेमोक्रेसी है जो संविधान के तहत सामान्य से सामान्य नागरिक के जीवन को हर प्रकार की सुरक्षा, उसके विचारों की रक्षा, उससे प्रतिबद्ध है।
Prime Minister's reply or response should come as no surprise, because he is consistently spreading that message that the only thing that matters is the Constitution of India and the constitutional guarantees, and his government is committed to it. It does not matter whether it's one incident or two incidents.
It's also an exercise in hypocrisy. He stands exposed. If he really means what he has said today, then he knows the names of his colleagues who are guilty, and he should order registration of cases against his other party colleagues.
We disagree with the statement made by Shri Narendra Modi in UK that all religions are being respected in India. This has become the most intolerant country. According to the President, he has also expressed his displeasure.
शक है हम इसमें, इस स्टेटमेंट पे क्यों उन्होंने विदेश जाकर ये स्टेटमेंट दिया है। इस देश का असहिष्णुता के बारे में सही चिंता है, और बुद्ध महात्मा गांधी का सिद्धांत पे उनका विश्वास है। तो जब यहाँ इतना मुद्दा हो रहा है, इश्यूज हो रहा है, तभी उन्होंने प्रतिक्रिया करते थे।
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday also made a speech at the Royal Gallery of the Houses of British Parliament in London, becoming the first Indian head to address it. He received a standing ovation when he arrived at the House of Commons. Now, in his 25-minute speech, Modi touched upon various topics including Indo-UK ties, terrorism, business opportunities and investment.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for opening the doors to us here in this magnificent setting of the Royal Court. I know that the Parliament is not in session.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing lawmakers in the British House of Parliament on the first day of his visit to the UK. During his speech, Modi spoke warmly of the close ties between Britain and India, the Prime Minister citing his predecessors Jawaharlal Nehru and Manmohan Singh to highlight the connected histories of the two countries.
So much of the modern history of India is linked to this building. So much history looms across our relationship. Many freedom fighters of India found their calling in the institutions of Britain. And many makers of modern India, including several of my distinguished predecessors, from Jawaharlal Nehru to Dr. Manmohan Singh, passed through their doors.
Modi exhorted nations to isolate terrorists and those who harbor them. Modi said there should be no distinction between terrorist groups or discrimination between nations.
And terrorism and extremism are a global force that are larger than their changing names, groups, territories and targets. The world must speak in one voice and act in unison to combat this challenge of our times. We must adopt a comprehensive convention on international terrorism in the United Nations without delay. There should be no distinction between terrorist groups or discrimination between nations.
Dwelling on business among other subjects during his 25-minute speech, the Prime Minister stated that India was the new bright spot of hope and opportunity for the world, igniting the engines of manufacturing sector and making its farms more productive.
If you visit India, you will experience the wind of change. It is reflected in the surge of investments from around the world, enhanced stability of our economy, in 190 million new bank accounts of hope and inclusion, in the increase in our growth to nearly 7.5% per year, and in the sharp rise in our top ranking on ease of doing business.
The Prime Minister also called for cooperation to launch Low Carbon Age for Sustainable Future of Planet ahead of the Paris Climate Summit to be held later this year. He concluded his speech to a loud round of applause. Modi is due to meet Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace on Friday. He will also be addressing the Indian diaspora at Wembley Stadium later today. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Well, Prime Minister Modi pitched for the Make in India initiative as he addressed a businessman at the Guildhall in London's financial district. He also assured investors that doing business in India is going to get better by the day.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi pitched for his pet Make India initiative during his address to business leaders at the Guildhall in London. He appealed to corporates to invest in a more transparent India.
We need to provide a huge push to manufacturing, which has stagnated at around 16% of the GDP for several decades. The share must reach around 25% in the short and medium term. With this in view, we have launched the Make in India initiative. We are working on all fronts to make India a global manufacturing hub.
Modi also addressed concerns about India's handling of the intellectual property rights, saying his government is working hard to improve it.
I am personally convinced and want to assure you that India is committed to protect intellectual property rights of all innovators and entrepreneurs. We have taken several initiatives for transparency and online processing in IP administration. A comprehensive national IPR policy is being finalized.
The Prime Minister also outlined the work done to make India more business-friendly. He said India has come up with a mechanism of tax-free infrastructure bonds for projects in railways, roads and other sectors.
There were a number of regulatory and taxation issues which were adversely impacting on the sentiments of foreign investors. We have taken a very decisive step to remove a number of long-pending concerns.
Modi also tried to convince investors that necessary conditions for takeoff of the Indian economy have been created and held out assurances that it will get better and better in the coming days. He said India is among the most open countries for foreign investment with the latest round of FDI reforms, asserting at this point of time it is wiser to be in India. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that was the day one of PM Modi's visit, and today, apart from bilateral engagements, Modi will also meet the Queen and address a huge gathering of the Indian diaspora at the Wembley Stadium. Now, preparations are almost final for the grand reception at the iconic Wembley, where 60,000 people are expected to turn up. Here are the details.
After attending lunch with Queen Elizabeth at Buckingham Palace on Friday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive for his grand reception at the iconic Wembley Stadium. The mass rally and fireworks display at Wembley is being seen as the centerpiece of the three-day visit. Organizers have been working day and night to put an extravagant show. Some claim it will be bigger than Modi's Madison Square Garden event in US last year.
Everybody in the United Kingdom is really looking forward to his visit. We've been waiting for many months for this, and a lot of time, effort and energy has gone into preparing what will be, I think, the grandest reception that a foreign leader has ever received on British soil.
Modi will address the Indian community at Wembley in front of an expected 60,000 Indians. UK Prime Minister David Cameron will deliver the welcome speech. The 2-hour-long event will star more than 600 artists in an Olympic-style ceremony.
We've created an environment whereby people from different communities that have different dances, different songs, different this, different that, we've created an opportunity where they can all collaborate together, which is very exciting. So the program really reflects the mood of the Indian community here in the UK about collaboration, a very positive future.
The Prime Minister has been hosted by the Indian community on most of his visits abroad. The reception at the Madison Square Garden in New York last year has been one of the biggest, with an audience of around 18,000 people. Almost the same number attended the reception for Modi at San Jose in America's Silicon Valley this year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, we'll be getting you a minute-by-minute update on Prime Minister's second day of the UK visit as well. But moving on in the bulletin now, well, industrial output slowed to a 4-month low of 3.6% in September, while consumer price inflation hit a 4-month peak of 5% in October. Food inflation rose to 5.25% year-on-year in October, compared with 3.88% in the previous month. Now, this was mainly due to a 42.2% spurt in the prices of pulses. Now, index of industrial production in September grew slower than 6.3% in the previous month. Manufacturing grew 2.6% in September, compared to a 2.7% a year before. Mining rose 3% in September against 0.1% in the same period last year, while electricity generation surged 11.4% compared with 3.9% a year earlier. Now, analysts feel that food inflation is still under control, considering that monsoon rains remained deficient for a second straight year in 2015. Now, headline CPI inflation is expected to undershoot the RBI's projection of 5.8% by January 2016. And well, the International Monetary Fund has said that India's growth will benefit from recent policy reforms, a consequent pickup in investment and lower commodity prices. The IMF has projected a 7.5% growth rate for India in 2016 against China's 6.3%. However, for the current 2015 year, the IMF has projected 7.3% growth rate, which is 0.2% less than its projection made for the year in July. In emerging economies, growth will decline for the 5th year in a row in 2015 before strengthening next year, the IMF has said in its report G20 Global Prospects and Challenges, which was issued ahead of the G20 summit in Turkey next week. Now, emerging economy growth is expected to rebound in 2016, reflecting mostly a less deep recession or an improvement of conditions in countries in economic distress. And right now we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
Tales that inspire, stories of social change. A salute to diversity, promoting public discourse. Events that motivate, inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries every Friday at 10:30 p.m., Saturday 12:30 p.m. and Sunday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. News coming in from Karnataka, where the VHP has called for a statewide bandh today following the escalating tension in the state over the birth anniversary celebration of the 18th century Mysore ruler Tipu Sultan. Well, the bandh has been called by the group over the death of its worker during the protests on Tuesday. The VHP activist died after succumbing to the injuries that he suffered during stone pelting amid the clashes between the VHP activists and a Muslim group. The police resorted to lathi charge to control the situation. BJP and Sangh Parivar outfits staged demonstrations against the government over the violence. Meanwhile, politics continue to play out on the issue. On Thursday, Gyanpith awardee Girish Karnad and BJP MP Pratap Simha allegedly received death threats for their remarks. Karnad has called for the city international airport to be named after Tipu Sultan.
Controversy continues to rage over the birth anniversary celebrations of Tipu Sultan. After the Gyanpith awardee Girish Karnad invited the anger of right-wing groups by expressing his admiration of the 18th century ruler, BJP MP Pratap Simha also allegedly got death threats on the social media. Several politicians blamed the state government for the unrest.
Such a great warrior and was a great icon of Kannada. Government is in its rights to celebrate his birth anniversary. In spite of troubling defeat in Bihar, the Modi, Mr. Shah and company has not learnt any lesson. In Bihar, they've started in the name of development and came down to divisive politics, communal politics.
People have lost their life, people are receiving threat calls. Under such a situation, we demand that the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Siddaramaiah, should place his resignation on table because he is consistently showing that as the head of the state, he is not able to manage the law and order of the state.
VHP has been making every issue possible to create communal strife in the country, particularly in the state of Karnataka. Their creative writers, artists, scholars are being intimidated.
Security was increased at the residence of Karnad. Kodagu MP Sinha also approached the Mysuru police for security. Karnad said he apologizes if anybody has been hurt by his views.
It's our responsibility, being celebrities, that we should know whose name should be taken, whom we should talk about. People like Tipu Sultan, you want his name to be renamed as the airport. I think it's not in good taste.
At the Tipu Jayanti event organized by the state government in Bengaluru, Karnad said the city airport should have been named after Tipu Sultan rather than the city's founder Kempe Gowda. BJP and VHP staged demonstrations in Karnataka against the celebrations. Meanwhile, the toll in the clashes that took place in Madikeri climbed to 2 after a 26-year-old succumbed to bullet injuries in Mysore. A VHP sympathizer had earlier died during the clashes on Tuesday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now a look at what all events are lined up for the day ahead. Bhutan's Prime Minister Sheringa Togbe will visit India from today to attend a conclave in Goa and meet top Indian leaders. The Bhutanese Premier will address the conclave on 15th of November, where the theme is Learning from Civilization. While in Goa, he will meet Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar. The Prime Minister will stop over in New Delhi on 16th of November to meet senior officials of the Government of India and return to Bhutan on 17th of November. Russia is likely to learn its Olympic fate as the International Association of Athletics Federations discusses Russia's clarification on allegations of systematic doping. Now, Moscow hopes to prevent its athletes being banned from next year's Rio Olympics by claiming irregularities around its drug testing system were down to the sport's old leadership. The country's athletics federation has written to athletics governing body after allegations of state-sponsored doping were made by the World Anti-Doping Agency's independent report. The Ministry of Women and Child Development will hold its annual Women of India exhibition with the theme Women and Organic Products in the national capital. The exhibition will involve sale and exhibition of organic products, be it food or other eco-friendly products, mainly exhibited by various women's groups and women entrepreneurs from Delhi, NCR and all states of India, especially from rural areas. And on the big international story now, where at least 43 people were killed and over 240 were injured when two suicide bombers struck Hezbollah strongholds in the Lebanese city of Beirut. The Sunni jihadist group Islamic State have claimed responsibility for the attacks. The Lebanese Prime Minister Tamam Salam has condemned the attacks and he has called on rival factions to unite against the terrorist plans to create strife.
One of the deadliest bombings in Lebanon since the civil war ended 25 years ago. Two suicide bombers hit Hezbollah bastion in a crowded residential place on Beirut on Thursday. A third suicide bomber was apparently killed in the twin explosions before he could detonate his explosive vest. Sunni jihadist group Islamic State claimed responsibility for the bombings. In a statement, they have identified 3 attackers as 2 Palestinians and 1 Syrian. Security has been stepped up in Lebanon. Army has set up checkpoints at all key entrances. Lebanese Prime Minister Tamam Salam condemned the attacks as unjustifiable and called on Lebanon's rival factions to unite against terrorist plans to create a rift. However, there seems to be a clear divide on the ground.
مستبعدا يعني بعد أنا ما عندنا معلومات بعد من يقف وراء لكن ليس مستبعدا على داعش وكل أخوات داعش وكل من ينتمي إلى هذه الوحوش الكاسرة أن يتبنوا مثل هكذا عمليات ضد البشرية وضد الإنسانية وضد المجتمع.
نحن شعب عروبي، نحن شعب عم نشيل الدم عن العرب، عن الإسلام، عن كل العالم، وما رح نعطي راسنا لحدا.
The bombing comes at a time when the Iran-backed Shiite group Hezbollah has stepped up its involvement in the Syrian civil war, a move which has irked the Sunni jihadist groups. Hezbollah has sent hundreds of fighters to support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the 4-year-old conflict. The Russian air campaigns also come as a major setback for IS in Syria. Lebanon shares a border of more than 300 kilometers with Syria. The Syrian civil war has ignited a proxy war between regional rivals, leading to bombings and infightings. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the US has slapped sanctions on a Pakistan-based group and its affiliate in Dubai, which have ties with terrorist outfits like the LET and underworld don Dawood Ibrahim for laundering money for criminals and political activists. Now, the Pakistan-based group Khanani Money Laundering Organization launders illicit funds for organized crime groups, drug trafficking organizations and designated terrorist outfits throughout the world, the US Treasury has said. Additionally, the Treasury also designated a Dubai-based money services firm Al Zaruni Exchange for being owned or controlled by or acting for on behalf of directly or indirectly the Khanani MLO, and for materially assisting, sponsoring or providing financial, material or technological support for or goods or services to or in support of the Khanani MLO. Well, as a result of the Treasury's action, any property in the US or in the possession or in control of US persons in which Khanani MLO or Al Zaruni Exchange has an interest now have been blocked, and the Americans have been prohibited from engaging in transactions with them. And some more international stories now in World Wrap. Kurdish forces are making significant gains in Iraq's Sinjar province against Islamic State. Reports suggest that they have taken a strategically important main road near the town that helps connect the IS strongholds of Mosul and Raqqa. US-led coalition is also supporting the Kurdish forces. Meanwhile, in another incident, an IS video has threatened Russia against their airstrikes in Syria, supporting Assad forces. 13 suspected jihadi group members have been arrested in various raids across Europe. They were allegedly recruiting foreign fighters to be sent to Iraq and Syria. The raids in Finland, Germany, Italy, Norway, Switzerland and the UK targeted a terrorist group called Rauti Shacks. The Italian police said that they were planning a terrorist attack to secure the release of their imprisoned leader, Mullah Krekar. Pentagon has confirmed that 2 US B-52 strategic bombers flew near islands in the South China Sea earlier this week. The US planes continued with their mission undeterred despite Chinese efforts to communicate with the US. And this comes amidst a growing rift between the US and China over the disputed islands. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon congratulated Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi on her party's election performance, but warned that hard work needs to be done to build a successful democracy. Results so far suggested a clear mandate for Suu Kyi's party. Full results are expected in few days. Let's now get you all the sporting action in Sports Beat. Defending champion Saina Nehwal emerged as a lone Indian survivor at the China Open Super Series premiere after reaching the quarterfinals on Thursday. Top seed Saina notched up a 21-10, 19-21, 21-19 win against the world number 34, Malaysian T. Jingyi. However, two-time bronze medalist at the World Championship, PV Sindhu blew away a first game lead to lose 21-18, 18-21, 16-2 to Shixian Wan of China. India finally tasted victory in the 2018 Football World Cup qualifying campaign as they beat Guam as a solitary goal of 1-0. Robin Singh scored the goal in the 10th minute. The victory came despite India playing whole of the second half with 10 men. This was India's first victory after 5 defeats. World Cup qualifier between Argentina and Brazil was postponed less than an hour before kickoff after torrential rains in Buenos Aires. It is part of the third round of South American qualifying fixtures for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. The match has been rescheduled for Friday. FIFA has admitted 5 candidates to stand for the World Soccer Body's presidency election to succeed Sepp Blatter. Suspended UEFA chief Michael Platini was sidelined from the list. The elections are to take place on 26th of February next year. Well, that's all in this edition of news. Thanks so much for your time.